everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of There's a Will. We haven't missed a week since the war began at the end of February. And while not all of our shows have been about what's happening in Ukraine, this show will be very much focused on that, particularly from the vantage point of attendance, myself and the guests who'll be with us. One in the studio, Artur Gorniewski, and from Munich Airport live, Karolina Dehnhard. There she is. Hello, Karolina.
Hello.
Hello, Artur.
Hello.
And we'll be talking about the World4Ukraine conference, which took place last week in Rzeszow. The second installment, the first installment beginning was in the beginning of last December, just before the end of the year, obviously. And this one just last week at the end of September. So, I don't know why I'm talking like this. What's wrong with me?
Well, nothing changed according to my knowledge.
It's that Columbia, no, I don't always talk like that. It's that Columbia broadcasting training, you know?
Okay.
The system.
So you
got to fight the system, man.
So you brought the system from Columbia to Poland. That's what you did.
You got to fight the system. Yeah, I did. Not from Columbia, from the Columbia Journalism School.
Oh, okay.
Not from Columbia. It was like, I'm not a mule.
Okay, there are just too many Columbias, apparently.
You don't even know what a mule is.
I know what a mule is.
Well, sure, he knows that, but I mean, a mule like a mule from Columbia is like, I'm secret.
The drug mule.
Ah, exactly. Like Clint Eastwood in that movie. Only slightly younger.
Clint Eastwood.
I'm only 85. Clint Eastwood was 90 in that film.
And do you know the Clint Eastwood's The Eiger Sanctions?
Yes.
That's one of the show's topics, because Eiger, that's where I work in Switzerland. That's what I show.
I know you were on the mountains. You were doing it. Arthur's a tour guide who became an extremely effective aid giver and aid organizer, first on the front line along the border, which was, you know, an incredible scene, obviously with millions of people coming through the border from Ukraine at the beginning of the war in March. That whole month was mad. We ran into each other many times in the course of that month.
Yeah. I saw you there.
As we were covering, we did some programs with you, and then we were covering the war along the border and topics along the border and in that area, and actually helping with some orphans, moving some orphans. I did some programs about that.
Yes.
Or just children. There's some children, and then there's orphans,
both,
obviously.
Exactly.
And both were moved out in masses. And then you started your organization, H.E.L.P, which has been very effective. Second part of the program, we're going to devote that to talking about that subject with you and with Karolina Dehnhard, who's done amazing things too. I met Karolina at the last conference, where she was working with various partners on the project to speed up the process of already adopted orphans from Ukraine to go to the United States. And she's continued to work on that. It's been a very difficult road. I mean, you can't imagine how hard it's been for her with so many hours to organize this. My hat, if I were wearing one, would be off, but it's metaphorically off. Chapeau bas, as the French would say. And very proud of your work and of Arthur's. It's a great honor to have you both in the studio and to call you friends. So
thank you for that.
Thank you for being here.
Same here.
You're the sort of people who are making all of this worthwhile for us who haven't been as involved, and for obviously all of those people you're helping, and doing it, I must say, with no thanks except for the good works you're doing. And boy, that's an example we all need to follow and to pay attention to in this time of trouble and of need. Yeah. Anyway, the World4Ukraine conference. I showed up last year. I had no idea what I was going to find there. Karolina, were you at the first? Yes, you were at the first because I met you there. Not were you? Yes. You were at the first one. I met you there in one of the evenings with a whole table of very interesting people. A doctor who was advising, who is a high up in the army. Doctor and a wonderful guy, actually. What was his name? What is his name?
Dr. Charnik.
Yeah, this guy is
He's from
amazing.
North Carolina.
Yeah, he's from North Carolina, and I have some roots there as well. He was a fascinating guy to chat with for a bit. Must get him on the show. I haven't done it yet. Of course, you were talking about your orphan project. That's where I was introduced to it, and there were others. Prospective Congressman Phil Goss was there, old friend of mine and of the show, and also your partner, the doctor from Poznan, Joanna Józefiak, yeah,
Yes.
from who runs a beautiful clinic there on the border with
correct.
Poland and Germany, and is highly fluent in these matters as well. So, but to both of you, let me start with you, Karolina. We'll come back to Artur. What is the World for Ukraine conference? What is it? What does it mean to you? And what is it? What drew you there?
So it's the opportunity to have a conversation with people that are all vested into the war, what's going to happen while the war continues, from my perspective, on behalf of the orphans that are displaced in Poland and Western Europe, and then overall the rebuilding of Ukraine. The United States has given Ukraine a substantial amount of money since the war broke out. And I think that as a country, we have a vested interest in how that money is being spent, what will happen as the war progresses. For my own needs, I wanted to find myself there to have a conversation this particular time with the people that were talking about abduction of children by Russia, the mental health issues of the caregivers and the children, and to obviously provide an overview of the advancements we've made, which are now focusing on lifting the moratorium for a very finite identified group, which is the 300 children that were in the process of being adopted before the war broke. So the conversation of Americans want to take the kids and we want, carte blanche to just adopt them, that's not the focus anymore. The focus is working with specific families across 27 states in the U.S. for 300 children. And I believe that this opportunity was very fruitful, as we had somebody from the Ukrainian government join us at my roundtable who opened up his eyes, saw the issues, and thankfully agreed with the plight for this identified group.
Very good. May I add that Karolina is a distinguished attorney dealing with family law. Would I be correct in saying you're in the New York City area, or should I say New Jersey? New York City.
That's correct.
New York City area.
We have an office right in downtown by the former Twin Towers.
Right.
I'm in the New York City area, and I also do work in Eastern Europe and internationally. So I work globally.
Very good. Nice statement, and nice to have you. Artur, what does the Ukraine World for Ukraine conference mean to you?
So there were two of these conferences, and they differed a lot. The one that took place last year was an opportunity for all of us aid givers to meet finally, because we knew that we are working together. We didn't have too much time to just sit next to one table and have a conversation, and that was great to have this conference last year. And the feelings over then were very uncertain. So everyone just came back from a big trip or was just on the way. Like, I also stepped in just for one day and then continued right to the heart of Ukraine to Kiev with my car. So that was very difficult moments, unexpected for us. These moments were giving us very different feelings, but this conference was totally different. So this conference, everyone already came with a plan. Everyone knew exactly what they achieved through last year. Everyone knew now that planning is very important. So all the panels also gave us an information. Okay, these are the topics that we are moving around right now. So psychology is super important. The topic that was barely touched during last conference now was one of the major topics. So psychology, battles with all the medical issues that Joanna Józefiak rose during this conference even twice. And then we have cancer issues. Then we have also topics like corruption. It's not a secret that it's a big topic, and where the aid should be directed. And I even met a very interesting gentleman from the Middle East who takes care of it with his organization. If there is a donor and he would like to give, then he checks the organization and the cash flows. A lot of, actually, I personally came across 26 interesting organizations that in smaller, on bigger form, I know that I'll be continuing keeping in touch with. So this conference gave us an idea how we should plan our next moves. That's what it meant to me.
What about you, Karolina?
Well, I think that this conference really was monumental for my efforts in that I now have support from Ukraine to continue the conversation about lifting the moratorium with direct contacts to the embassy in Kyiv and direct contacts to the embassy in Washington. I've already put the wheels in action. I'm going to be heading to Washington in the next 10 days or so with Senator Lesniak, who is my partner on this initiative. So I believe that Arthur's absolutely correct that last time we were there, kind of just bumping into each other, seeing what's going on, what's everybody doing, kind of a sniff test, if you will. And this year, it was more concrete conversations of efforts, next steps, and how we're all going to work together where it makes sense. People have definitely unified on projects, on concepts, and on plans of action.
So it's much more mature, this conference. It was a bit, and also the first conference was a response to just this huge wave of forced immigration or forced relocation, if you will, okay? At least,
Yes.
you know, I've heard there were three kinds of relocation on the Polish border. One was those people running away from or escaping from the war. Not men, but women and children, almost entirely, because men couldn't escape unless they were over the age of something. I don't remember what it was, but it was retirement age. Yeah. So the other one is the forced deportation and migration that the Russians took place, that took place at the hands of the Russians to the east.
Yes.
Which was a total travesty and an exact opposite, the antimatter version of what happened in the western border. And then you also had this weird promotional, not promotional, sort of, totalitarian, how do you say it, autocratic promotion of immigration through Belarus, where they have taken unsuspecting people from various parts of the world and tried to shove them into Europe through the border. Another travesty. And when I hear people, and this is somewhat a subject too at the conference, because we have the physical and the psychological reconstruction of Ukraine. Physical being the buildings themselves and business, etc.
Yes.
And hospitals and everything to do with medical and that sort of thing. Not to mention the political reconstruction of a functioning, as you say, as you brought up quite rightly, government that is not corrupt, then or less corrupt, because we're dealing with humans here. But and then you have the issue of the children, as we said at the beginning, orphans, but also human trafficking, which has continued to be a massive issue.
Exactly.
Not just this direction. Oh, the Russians aren't human trafficking? I remember years ago.
They have been and are. Absolutely.
Of course they are. I mean, years ago, I did investigation with a colleague in the Balkans. The beginning of the 2000s, of the Albanian mob, because they were the first ones to really start a production line of sex slavery and human trafficking from particularly the ex-Russian states into Europe. And I remember I tried to sell my story to Playboy in Moscow, because I sold the story in many places. And they said, oh, no, that's we like the story. It's well written, which was nice. They said, but we're used to human trafficking in Russia.
Oh, my God. It's terrible.
We're used to it. Okay? So you don't even have to ask yourself. They're used to it. It's out of the mouth of the editor of one of their main magazines at the time. Of course, he was later
about that?
assassinated. That editor was
How-
assassinated.
How about that, right?
Yeah. By
So
Mr.
that's-
Putin.
That's what we are fighting with. That's what we are dealing with. Even the initial steps of the conflict were so shocking to us.
Yeah.
And they came prepared. They knew what they want to do. All of us were caught off guard. Everyone just left everything and went to the border just to stay over there and see how it continues. So our main effort was to adjust our actions to the situation that we are currently facing. So at the beginning, exactly where there was no fuel at the border, we had to drive back and forth. When the days were frosty and when all the supply delivery chains were cut, this is when we had to deliver all the things. So we needed a warehouse to deliver all the goods. We had to take the fuel with ourselves. When the problem of crossing the border wasn't that difficult anymore, and we knew that as Poland, as a country, we will not establish the refugee center like at all. I mean, refugee camp. There is not a threat of establishing a refugee camp, then we can move forward. So now the problem is the kids. We want to take care of the resettled orphan children. Words can express my huge gratitude to Karolina Dehnhard, who rose the topic in the United States. So rose the topic that people basically didn't know about. Because how you are supposed to know about something that's supposed to be hidden?
I know what it's like because we tried to raise, my colleague and I, the subject of sex slavery 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. No one would listen.
Okay.
We went to Congress, politicians didn't want to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
The American ambassador to Macedonia, Albania, Kosovo, they didn't want to know about it. No one wanted to talk about it. Mm-hmm. The Albanian mafia was just too dangerous. Situation was too volatile.
So let me say...
So I understand how difficult it is.
So probably it was pretty similar to meeting of President Roosevelt with Jan Karski. Jan Karski, who during World War II collected evidences from the Jewish ghetto, how the situation looks like over there. And once he flew to the US, what did he hear as an answer? The proper things will be done in a proper time.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to compare my experience to Jan Karski, but we'll say that I understand a little bit because they did come after us, and we had to escape the country.
Yeah, right.
They came after us big time. Yeah, okay. Karolina, what did you get? 3 things you got out of the conference, if you can think of 3 things, or just the main things?
Sure. Well, I think like Arthur said, the first thing is that the conversation has not been quashed. When we first presented at last year's Ukrainian World Summit, the backlash from the Ukrainian caregivers and the Ukrainian officials was, everything's fine, nothing's going on, the children are safe, they're going to go back, we don't need Americans involved, stop talking about wanting our children. And although we very diplomatically got through the conversation in the panel, and I believe planted the seed, over the last several months, the word has been advancing. And I believe that through our multiple trips to the orphanages, through working with Arthur, through doing various research, investigative work, if you will, getting some statistics, getting information on what's happening with the kids, what their needs are, and some tragic stories that we're getting out of Italy and Germany about how the children are being abused, how the caregivers are being fired. I believe that now, just last week, we were able to not only have our mission accepted and that we are believed, we are found to be credible, but now we have found partners from Ukraine that want to help us. So that is a huge, huge win. The other thing is that we have hospitals in Europe that are now going to be aligning with hospitals in the United States to help provide humanitarian aid to the children. So whether it's eyeglasses, hearing tests, dentistry, whatever it may be, American hospitals getting involved is a huge step for us PR-wise, but more so for the kids themselves in the medical space. Think about it this way, Will. American hospitals are very wealthy conglomerates in the United States. If we're going to get them on board to speak of this issue, whether it's sex trafficking, whether it's adoptions, whatever it may be, we now have a much bigger platform. So that's number 2, that relationship. And number 3, I think, is the wonderful collaboration with the Summit World4Ukraine Foundation, which we are now going to get more involved with, connect them with the foundations in the U.S. so that this continues. Even if the war ends tomorrow.
About the foundation, and excuse me, Could you tell us a little bit more about what that foundation is, the World4Ukraine Foundation?
What I believe the foundation is all about is continuing to educate, promote, and collaborate globally on behalf of Ukraine. So if there's going to be training services needed, more collaborations with entities across various sectors in the U.S., we are going to have an arm through the foundation that is run in Rzeszow to have that relationship, whether memorandums of understanding, different initiatives, more conferences, but it's going to be unified. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity for organizations such as Arthur's or other smaller foundations to get involved with an overall umbrella that's going to allow people to feel that they're in a safe space, that any money donated is going to be allocated properly, and any conversations about initiatives are going to be managed by someone, not that we're just all running our own race. Because running your own race at a time like this is not going to accomplish much. Force is in numbers. Unity is in the voice we're going to create globally.
Wow. Okay, that's a great answer. I like her advocating for me.
I would like to hear more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Amazing.
What would you like to add to that?
No, that's great. I mean, whenever I listen to Karolina and her idea and the way she continues with her work, like makes me feel like in the humanity, because this is what we do this for these little children who run around and really have no idea for the future. They have no idea what tomorrow will bring, because the guardians have no idea. Once the guardians want to leave to another country, once they are told they have to do this, and then there's family situation that changes, and then we need people who know what tomorrow will look like, who have connections with another countries and can work globally. And also big giant thanks to you, Will, for bringing this topic to the table, so that we can plan the tomorrow.
Gosh, well, thanks. Yeah, that's our job, is to look at the issues, analyze them, and bring out the voices to talk about them, and do the best we can to get messages out. We're contributing something anyway, positive. Now, Karolina, I just want to ask one thing. You said you're in touch with the embassy. Is that the American embassy in Kiev? On this subject?
Yes, yes.
That's the American embassy in
Yes.
Kiev and the Ukrainian embassy in Washington, right? Just to be
yes.
clear. Okay, very good. All right, that's all we got for this first half. Stay with us. We'll be back with 25 more minutes of talk. Meanwhile, buy everything that's advertised, because it's money keeps us on the air. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I have Karolina Dehnhard in the Munich airport. She's a family lawyer from the Big Apple. And we have in the studio my friend, Artur Gorniewski, a tour guide, deluxe tour guide, who turned himself into a rescuer of orphans. More of that later. Stick around for that. I want to come back to what we're talking about, the summations of the conference, and what we were talking about at the end of the first section. And I want to say to Karolina, what about support in the U.S. for the Ukraine? Is it fading? How important is war fatigue at the moment? What are you hearing, since you're our eyes and ears over there on the East Coast?
There was just a statement passed within the last 24 hours that support for Ukraine is going to be cut off. Our budget right now is at a standstill. We have literally a standstill in Washington, D.C. So what's going to happen is, unless they pass the budget, there's no more aid. Ultimately, they will pass the budget. But if Republicans get back into the White House, aid's going to dwindle.
You don't think the Republicans will support if they get back in the White House?
Well, I think that the Republicans, as they get back in the White House, are going to need some goodwill from Ukraine in the positions that we're taking on transparency and a bigger collaboration. Certainly, we're going to raise the issue of what's happening with the children. and providing relief for the children. We want to know where the funds are going. Republicans are very much against the carte blanche money that's been given by the Democrats without any measures really in. So this is the moment for President Zelensky and Parliament to think about how they're going to potentially work with the Republicans if we are back in office. And obviously, I'm a staunch Trump supporter and make no qualms about that. And a Republican, I really believe that there needs to be better goodwill from Ukraine rather than just coming to the U.S. and simply expecting that money will be given. That money has been given, but there needs to be reciprocation of what we're looking for as well. And I think that's the message the Republicans are sending.
So there needs to be accountability. And that makes sense. None of us who would be running a business would just want to throw money around without knowing why we're doing it. And that's a reasonable request. It also is good for Ukraine. It's good training for the future because in the past we know that a lot of money was siphoned off into the pockets and bank accounts abroad of the oligarchs of Ukraine, the richest people in Ukraine. It's we know that's been happening. In fact, one of the biggest oligarchs is under scrutiny now for a number of reasons. I mean, this fellow owns just about everything in Ukraine, or has his finger in almost every essential pie regarding the health of the country. Yes? You want to comment on that?
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say that the reason that I'm able to speak to this in first person really is because I'm working with 200 families in 27 states across the United States that are the prospective parents of these children, parents that were vetted at different, different places of the adoption process, but they are getting a door slammed in their face at every single step. So the question becomes, if you're getting money for the health and safety of women and children, where are these children? Why are they not getting the care? Why is there no medical need? Why are they living with bed bugs? Why are they having their cell phones taken away? What is going on if we're writing checks for billions of dollars? What is happening here? So those are the questions the Republican Party wants answers to above and beyond what's happening with the children, but an accounting and accountability. The medical system is suffering. We sent tons of money for aid. Why are hospitals underfunded? Why are we hearing at this conference that surgeons are operating with iPhone flashlights? That makes no sense. Where is the money going?
Well, it's a very good question, and it is going to be incredibly important going forward. But that accountability, as we were just saying, should be part of the process and shouldn't actually hurt it, should help it once we have the accountability. It should relieve this mystery that's on many people's minds. And on I mean, this is taxpayers' money. This is not magic. And American citizens need to know where their money is going with confidence.
Well, it's so much more heightened right now, Will, because of what's happening with Mexico, the border, and the migrants, right? So tax-paying American citizens, specifically in those states that are heavily impacted, such as New York City, they're watching billions of dollars, trillions of dollars head to Ukraine simply because President Zelensky asks. Now, obviously, we need to be mindful of providing money to Ukraine for our own safety and our own global positioning. That makes perfect sense.
That's a geopolitical strategy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
So it makes sense. But when our children on American soil are now being impacted by not having safety in schools and young women don't feel safe walking the streets, and our cities in Manhattan are being our city of Manhattan is now being, basically it looks like an abandoned war zone in some areas. People sleeping in sleeping bags and boxes on the street while waiting to get into a hotel. This is not okay. So people are angry, I would say, even at providing continued relief because in our own backyard, we are now suffering.
Well, that's
so
more of a
transparency.
Yeah. That's a willful problem. That's not something that has to be happening. That's a creation of a problem.
Right.
As far as one can see by, as you can see what Elon Musk was doing on the border, it doesn't take a genius. Now, to look at the situation and know that it's really, really messed up and that it's not okay to overwhelm borders, whoever you are, to think that you can go across without a proper passport. I mean, I had to go through many hoops in my life to go and live and work in various countries, being the UK, being Poland, being Nicaragua. I mean, the rules you have to obey, and you expect there's going to be a problem if you don't obey them. So ignorance is not an excuse in this case, because everybody knows the reason you have a passport is you show it at borders. So this weak thinking that you can solve problems by throwing people at it is ridiculous.
Listen, I'm an immigrant from Poland. I came to the United States 84, 85 with my mom as a small child. And it took us years to get a green card, to get my mother to get employment status. She was operating on a visa during that time. We played by the rules. We did the right thing. We obeyed the rules. We now obviously live in a wonderful country, and the American dream was certainly provided to me and my family. What's happening now is absurd.
Well, you worked hard.
That
you worked hard.
Right. Right. And we didn't just, do what we wanted to do with free everything. We never got free anything. These people are coming in and getting free everything, while people in the U.S. that are legal are not able to secure health insurance because they can't afford it. So this is a real internal problem that we're having while we're watching the news and seeing money being thrown at Ukraine. So you could understand people's reservation and continued support.
Yeah, I mean, you've illuminated that very, very well. I just want to say, it's not that you don't feel sorry for people in trouble. You do. But when people willfully do something, I mean, maybe even naively, I mean, what can you do? I particularly look at the Belarus border section, which is really a travesty and very similar to what's goes on with the cartels pushing people across the border, taking money from them and pushing people across the American border. And people, may I add, from all over the world. Yes, we understand you want to come to America. I only wish Americans understood that people want to live in America, and Americans appreciated it more, some of them who are attacking their own way of life. It seems absurd to me. But I can think of one Democratic campaign manager who was telling me, oh, I can't wait to retire and live in France. I just don't like the United States. I said, well, why are you working on a campaign? I love the United States. I love Poland. I love the United States. Love the UK. My God, I even found a soft place in my head for Nicaragua. So there you are. Not Mr. Ortega so much, but the country itself.
The problem is that even if Trump gets back into office, the Republicans are back in office, hopefully it'll be President Trump, we still have the issue of all the thousands of people that already crossed the border. Yeah. We're not going to all of a sudden find them and deport them, right? So we are inheriting a long-term problem, even if the border is now secured. And that's really a huge issue that's going to put a tremendous strain on our educational system and our medical system and our criminal system. So we have a lot of work ahead of us for a decade to come, if not longer.
Yeah, it's, gosh, the politics of it is just so frustrating. And all of these border situations, except for the Ukraine border situation, where Poles just said, come on down, come in, brothers and sisters, comrades, come and be with us, or use our door to go further. And that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Shame to see politics besmirch that beautiful gesture made on behalf of so many people. Speaking of beautiful gestures now, I want to turn to Artur, if I may. Artur, can you explain to us how your idea came to you and how you managed to set up the H.E.L.P. Foundation and create such a following and, such a grassroots support for your idea?
It's not a secret, everyone knows that. I'm a tour guide. I've been presenting the history of Poland the last 1,000 years to amazing people from all over the globe.
That's a long career, 1,000 years.
The long career of Poland, 1,000 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
Mine's just a little bit shorter. Yeah. But when the war started, I had to go to the border. I had to stay in that refugee point of Medica. And then I had to go to Ukraine a number of times. I had to have the warehouse, so I had to be in the places that required help. So first of all, that's why the name of the foundation. There it is.
It seems so obvious, but it's beautiful.
And then...
What's the logo? Is that what kind of bird? Is that a dove or just a bird?
So yes, that's dove. That's the bird that's bringing you help where you need it the most.
Whereas a
but
stork brings you babies, and that's not help.
okay. Well, that's we. Well,
It's beautiful trouble.
it's bringing also orphans across the border. It's
There you
bringing
go.
them to the safe places.
There you go.
So now this is what we see, and this is where we have combined our forces with Karolina, because both of us saw this need in the very same point. So this is where we are holding on. This is where we stay. We also went to both of the World4Ukraine conferences. We have also received such an amazing diploma. We have signed code of conduct for organizations operating in Ukraine. But look, it's not our logo.
What does it say?
It says that the initiative of the World4Ukraine Foundation is many different NGOs agree with it, that we operate in certain way, that everything gets much better organized now. And this is one of the documents that puts us together in this initiative, that we want to bring help to the places that need them most. But look, it's not our logo, it's not that certificate that we want to put in the frames, but this is what we put in the frames. This is our real diploma. This is a drawing from the children that got resettled from Odessa Oblast to Fromborg, and this is what they give to us.
Fromborg is on the coast by the Vistula Lagoon between
Yes.
Gdansk and Elbląg and Kaliningrad.
These are our most important diplomas, and this is what we put on the shelves on the cupboard during the conference. You've seen that, you've been that, we have the picture, and these are the most important documents for our work. And when we receive, we also want to give. So for the next Christmas, all the children are going to receive letters from American children who were on their holidays in Colorado, and during the holidays they signed the letters. These are Christmas letters, and we have a special mission, and that we will continue with Karolina. So among with the wish lists to Santa Claus and the gifts that the children will be given, they will receive. These are letters of encouragement. So
Gosh, do you think the Russians will be doing that?
okay, yeah, I think that they will have a special missiles that they will share with the Ukrainian nation. So these are going to be their gifts, and we are going to fight the evil with the good, and we will win and we will prevail, because it's not our first time in the history. Last time, well, 1920, the miracle at the Vistula River, when entire Europe was supposed to be conquered by Russia. Before that, so many times. And Poland is highly experienced in defeating Russian evil. By the way, Poland's the only country which entered Russian capital, Moscow, and stayed there for 3 years. It's not that we are going to do the same, but we are going to defend. We are going to defend our borders. We are going to defend the borders of Ukraine along with this amazing alliance with United States of America and NATO, and also
Don't forget Great Britain.
yes, and as you can see, I have the proper jacket, so if it's needed, I will be the pilot of an airplane myself. I will ask Tom Cruise to come over as well, and yeah, it's a little bit, yes, but sense of humor is also very important.
Of course.
This is what we want to bring to the orphanages as well. A lot of fun. Karolina, we just went to orphanage with amazing friends of yours, Angel and Jennifer. Thank you very much for bringing them. The moment they started to dance salsa for the children, and then all the children joined, was absolutely amazing, and this is exactly what we want to do.
Fantastic.
Yes, yes. And what's wonderful is that Dr. Angel Loss, who's a doctor, he is looking to do some work with Joanna and the hospital. So the collaboration continues on all fronts, but he immediately saw the need. So what we're going to do in collaboration with Arthur, Joanna, and Robert Wood Johnson Hospital from New Jersey, the healthcare system, is to provide these gifts for the children for the holidays, but most importantly, to see what medical aid we can provide. We've identified that they need eyeglasses, they need hearing tests, they need dentistry. So while Arthur and I are bringing joy, and while I'm working on the adoption front, on the political side, we're constantly looking at their needs and seeing who else we can invite to the table to do this with us, because we can't do this alone. We need various partners at different levels to provide what these kids need. After all, they're just children. They're just children.
Yeah, and it's the younger children who are the most helpless. But teenagers are also under huge pressure because they can understand that much more about what this means. And there's a beginning of an intellectual understanding at that age.
Well, they're also at a huge risk, because while the war continues and the teenagers stay within the confines of the orphanages, they age out. And when they age out, the doors open and it's like, say la vie, have a nice life. These kids are unequipped. They have no money. They have no prospects. We need to start addressing, and this is the next phase now of our humanitarian aid, what happens to those kids? Can we get them vocational training? Can we get them some startup money? Arthur could speak more to that. His beautiful fiance, also Karolina, talked about some of the ideas they have through Arthur's foundation on this topic. But this is a huge crisis because there's many of the older children. And just in Fromberg alone, we saw, at least a handful of them that are going to be aging out any day and sent out. So there's a lot of work to do at all the levels, Will, not just the little guys, all the way up to the 18-year-olds.
When we're talking about, thank you, when we're talking about Fromberg, we're talking about this small town where there's a large church, fortified church, above the fishing village, which is also where Copernicus did some of his studies, and where, in fact, his bones are interred. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And also his
Got it.
his work has been done there. So this is where Nicholas Copernicus was observing the sky.
Yeah.
That's where he proved in a scientific way that the Earth planet goes around the sun. So all the children must learn that Nicholas Copernicus was the strongest of all Polish people, because he was the one who stopped the sun and moved the Earth. While talking about such people, we also want to present histories of people like Frédéric Chopin, whose father, Nicolas Chopin, had to emigrate from France because of being a noble person. He was a very big risk that his life would be in danger because of the French Revolution. He emigrates to Poland, and look, the son of an immigrant in Poland provided his surname to be written on the main international airport in Poland. So we are trying to explain to the children that even though your story started in a very difficult way, then it's only up to you where it will go. And we want to encourage them. We want to tell them the life is yours. We want them to become another people like Karolina Dehnhard, who had to emigrate, but now her life's amazing and she's helping people. We don't want kids just hang out with the charity members. We want kids to hang out with people who made their way through their life. Businessmen, amazing personalities who are helping only because they feel such internal need. Then when we talk about Wedel family, who emigrated from Berlin to Warsaw, established the biggest chocolate company that till today is the most powerful and recognizable chocolate companies in Poland. Then we bring a box of chocolates, then it's time to play, then it's time to have fun. We want to mix some information, encouragement, empowerment speeches to the children with candy, with snacks, with pizza parties that we just attended to Karolina. Is that right?
It was wonderful. I mean, what a fun time, right? We had like 20 somewhat kids, right, at a pizzeria, laughing, enjoying each other, getting to know us. It was very special.
And a great place to do it.
There is a rumor that I ate a lot of pizza on that day. Please don't tell about this to anyone.
No, okay, we'll have to edit that out of the show, that last statement.
Why?
We wouldn't want your pizza.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to say it out loud.
Yeah.
See, that's my problem.
Yeah.
I say what I think.
You just blurt it out.
Yeah, that's what I did. But I ate the pizza, so that's the true, you know.
Like Jimmy Stewart there, you blah, 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 blip, 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 blip. You blurted it out.
Yep. Yeah.
Very good.
Actually, there is this joke. I'm not sure if I can tell the joke.
Well, I mean, as long as it's not too risque.
About this blubbing thing, I have a joke. So, you know, there is this count of an amazing region who has his palace, who has his castle, and he has a bath. And then, you know, he felt like a little bit breaking the wind while having his bath. And then, out of the blue, his servant comes from another room, comes over with a beautiful silver plate, a bourbon with a glass, and serving the bourbon to this amazing Count who has his buff right now. And then the Count says, hey, why actually, Bob, why did you bring me this
Bob?
Bourbon?
The guy's name was
Yeah,
Bob?
well, I heard
Was it Francois or something?
Sire, I heard you saying very clearly, Bob, please bring me a bottle of bourbon.
Oh, that's what it was. That's a bubbly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving right along. Thank you for that hilarious
Sorry for
story.
this. Sorry
No,
for
you're
ruining your
always
program.
telling stories. I know. You're always telling. That was a good one. I mean, it wasn't that good, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could, we're righteous and better material. Don't worry. No, it was good. It was good. Karolina, we're going to wrap up in a second. That was a great story from Artur. I mean, let viewers be the judge, but I thought that was very moving and important to say, and a more normal story, because when you think about the war, it can become very oppressive, because so much horror has taken place. But one of the things about this conference was it was looking forward and finding ways to reconstruct, as we said before, the psychology and the physical beauty of the country and its infrastructure. What was the main thing you got out of the conference as a sort of parting shot? We'll let you, in your eloquent way, perhaps sum up things for us.
I think that the most important takeaway was that whether you are a humanitarian, an attorney, a doctor, a philanthropist, the conference brought everybody together this year to create specific goals and objectives that are measurable. People collaborated, sat down, and actually said, company A and company is going to do this. Foundation A and B is going to do this. We have all committed to staying in touch and to very efficiently move forward to meet an end goal for our various causes. The companies that were there that are looking to rebuild in Ukraine, they're talking about getting in there, doing contracts, signing MOUs, and starting to work together. The medical space, they are sending supplies, instruments, medicine. They're collaborating on providing healthcare and mental health services to those in Ukraine and those refugees on the other side that are in need of that service in their language. On my end, for the Ukrainian orphans, I have a collaboration now between Ukraine, Poland, and the US, Germany, and Italy, where we are going to specifically continue our efforts in Washington with Congressman Smith to bring a resolution to be signed by Congress and the Senate to present to President Zelensky to lift the moratorium for those 300 children. So very specific to-do tasks, where last year it was a conversation of where are we and what will we do. So Will, think about it this way. In a matter of 9 months, this dedicated group of professionals flying in from both sides of the globe have come together to make real impact. And that is tremendous.
It is tremendous, and you put it over so well and frame it so well. Thank you very much. They should have had you on the main stage with your brilliant seminar that took place during the conference that I attended, and thanks for that as well. I learned a lot, and from both of you today, also from your seminar at the conference. And we can only say continue in your good work, and we're also helping a little bit behind the scenes with what we can, and we support you completely in this endeavor. And why shouldn't we? It's one of the great stories of the war. Thank you, everybody, for watching. May I say again, my guests were Artur Gorniewski, from the founder of the H.E.L.P Foundation, working with Ukrainian orphans in Poland and other places. And can we thank Karolina Dehnhard, who's doing great things with speeding forward the adoption of Ukrainian children in the United States to how many families, Karolina?
200 families are vetted and waiting.
200 families. It's amazing. Thank you, Karolina. Always a pleasure to see you. Okay. Have a pleasant flight home. And thank you for watching. As usual, may I say, you're looking well.